If you failed at something or something cost you a bunch of money, you just turn that into a selling opportunity because you thought to yourself, well, if this cost me a bunch of money, if you just have an opportunity mindset, this thing that I just did cost me a bunch of money, I wasted a bunch of money. I bet you there's other entrepreneurs that have wasted a bunch of money on this. If I figured it out, then maybe I can show them, teach them, do a service for them, and then they won't waste that money. And that's my competitive edge. That money that you lost, that memory, that bad memory that I had, and the test that I did, all of that led to the opportunity in front of us.
Welcome, badass entrepreneurs. It's time to hear the world's movers, shakers, and difference makers spill their secrets for unlimited success. So strap in, for Badass Entrepreneurs Only begins now. Greetings, badass entrepreneurs. I am, as always, Coach Dan Gordon. Welcome to yet another episode of For Badass Entrepreneurs Only. You indeed are badass, otherwise you would not be listening. Appreciate it that you're here. Let's do this thing. So my guest, Dave Farrow, has been listed twice in the Guinness Book of World Records. And he's been listed for having the greatest memory in the world. So Dave took his skill in memory and developed several educational products. And in marketing those, he discovered how to turn his Guinness World Record into massive media attention. So Dave did what all badass entrepreneurs do and said, shit, I should have people paying me for this. And so thus was the start of Farrow Communications, now a multi-million-dollar PR agency. Dave has personally been on over 2,000 media interviews, including Dr. Oz, Steve Harvey, The Today Show, Fox and Friends, CBS Early Morning, BBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, QVC, anything with a C, Dave has been on. And most recently, Dave won the $50,000 prize on the new hit show Superhuman on Fox. Can't wait to ask him about that. We have a lot to get into. I want to get into this guy's head, so let's do that right now. Dave Farrow, welcome to For Badass Entrepreneurs Only.
Wow, if I'm ever feeling down or anything, I'm going to give you a call and get you to introduce me again, man. That's a hell of a confidence boost. I hope we live up to it today. We're going to have a lot of fun.
I appreciate you saying that, man, but I mean, all I'm doing is saying what you've done. It's very cool. I got a couple questions I got to ask you right off the bat, okay? First of all, do you ever forget where you left your keys?
Yeah, I want to be clear about the memory thing. That no. This is actually a really neat point. I did a TED Talk on this. There are people who have what I would refer to as, they're called hypermnesia. It's the opposite of amnesia. They have like about 12 people that were diagnosed worldwide. You can tell them any date and they'll tell you what happened on that date, right? And it's absolutely fascinating. But the thing is, to a person, they are all incredibly depressed and they're reclusive. Wow. They're very sad because they can't forget anything. I'm actually writing a book on this called How to Forget. And I was researching this very thing. When people say I have the best memory in the world, I actually don't want to have the best memory in the world in terms of I don't want to remember everything. What I think best memory is the ability to forget some stuff and let stuff go. But I'd have to say where I really excelled and where my courses excelled were in speed learning. I taught people how to, I've got like lots of people who went to med school, lots of people who went to law school, and they were able to go from struggling, almost ready to drop out, to doing incredibly well in their classes. So that was really kind of my sweet spot. So I would say the fastest learner would be where I want to be.
Okay. So you have walked into a room and gone, let's see, what am I doing here? That's happened to you?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia when I was a kid. So that's my natural state. I only went in to learn memory techniques because unless I use a technique, I'm actually more forgetful than the average person.
Wow.
But I'm using techniques all the time.
Okay. Let me ask you this, because I figured that your childhood was just so like you were super popular, president of your class, smartest guy in the room, but that's not true. Is that what I'm hearing?
The biggest challenge I had actually probably was something I only recently started talking about in my book is chronic pain. I was very unhealthy as a kid and I was in the hospital a lot and I dealt with severe pain through most of my life into my late 20s, early 30s until I was able to overcome it. Now I'm approaching 50 and I'm completely pain-free and healthier and stronger than ever, got more energy than ever. By now, I thought I'd be in a wheelchair, to be honest. So I was dealing with this pain at the same time as like really strong ADHD, a little bit of dyslexia, but there's two different directions you can go when you experience trauma. In my case, it was a medical trauma, but other people have different trauma. But you can kind of go towards success to try to overcome it, or you can kind of let it lead you. The way psychologists divide those is they call one post-traumatic PTSD, post-traumatic stress benefit, and then
Mm.
traumatic disorder. So the interesting thing is the latest research you could actually say is some people with PTSD, some people who had big struggles in their life, and they've also accomplished a great deal. They
Yeah.
actually have the same pathology as the people who have PTSD, except their addiction is success, right?
Mm.
So for a long time, my addiction was like, how can I overcome this? How can I prove that I'm smart? How can I prove that and that's what sort of crazy thoughts lead you to trying to go after a Guinness record for memory. That's the type
Okay.
of, everybody's a little bit insane, but you just hope it directs you in the right direction.
But see, okay, because I know that you who are listening right now are going, oh, I wish I had that. Like, that would be awesome.
Mm.
I remember seeing, like, on a talk show, this woman
Yeah.
saying, I wouldn't mind having an eating disorder because my body would always be thin. What I'm wondering is, what's the downside of that? What's the downside of PTSD?
Everybody wants the result, but nobody wants nobody envies me for how I got there, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to have the psychology that makes you practice memorizing cards for hours and hours and hours in your bed
Mm.
until you're good enough to go for a world record. They just want the result. But that's a good lesson in life in general. And by the way, I will say that I'm very happy and well adjusted now. I look back on some of my accomplishments and I'm very proud of them and everything, but I also try to have work-life balance now. I take care of my kid, I do other things, and I think that's really important. Something I've learned as I've gotten older. It's a very good lesson is everybody always envies the result, but they don't envy
Yeah.
the psychology that, like, if you actually had an eating disorder, you would feel shitty about your appearance. Can I say that? I don't know if I can swear. But
Look,
you'd feel terrible about your appearance, like, every day. You'd have low self-esteem, you'd like,
mhm.
all these other
Yeah.
sorts of things, but yeah,
Right.
you'd have
That you're working
pounds
against.
less. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you wanna do, though, is you wanna find that crazy that is a good crazy. Like, it's okay to be manic if you're creative, if you're
Hmm.
manically wanting to create the best painting ever or the best
Yeah.
whatever it is you do. It's okay to be a bit crazy, in my opinion, for that. We should all be a little neurotic when we're putting online content up, just to be a little self-conscious and everything a little bit, because otherwise we'll put up horrible stuff and get canceled, right? So we need to have a little bit of kind of those negative feelings, those things that drive us. I think there's a
Hmm.
place for that in the world. The challenge is just when you have too much. I was facing the diagnoses and everything, and I had teachers that would tell me, I'm not going to go to college. I can't accomplish anything. I can't be an entrepreneur. And I just wanted to prove them wrong so badly that
Uh,
that drove me to just pick the biggest target I could. And I was like, what if I break a Guinness record? And then after
wow.
that, everybody completely treated me very differently.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You said, what would happen if I broke a Guinness record? So out of anything that you could have done, why that?
Well, okay, the memory courses started from a very good place. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to run my own business. And I've always actually loved marketing and the art of marketing. I thought it was like
Yeah.
really brilliant, even going back in the day. But I didn't know what I was going to do for a business, right? So when I was diagnosed with ADHD, dyslexia, I was diagnosed as a slow learner, like they threw everything at me. And this was kind of in the early days of ADHD. So there was a lot of problems with kids getting like a lot of medication and really
Sure.
screwing up a little bit and everything before they supposedly figured it out now. I looked at that and I was just like, I just got to solve this problem so I can be an entrepreneur. I was literally
Hmm.
just trying to figure out my brain for selfish reasons to try to overcome it. And I invented a few new memory techniques. And later on in my career, I was able to test them in a double blind neuroscience study at McGill University. I'm very proud of some of that legacy. It's a technique called memory modalities. It's in my course. I added to the art of memory, something that had never been there before. I thought I taught it in a unique way. So I got really good at this stuff. And then I turned my grades around almost overnight. And then other students came up to me and said, hey, how did you do that? And that's when I realized there was something big.
All right. Okay. There's 10 things I want to dive into, but I'm just going to start with this.
Yeah.
You realized that you had a problem with your memory because your ADHD, your brain
Yeah.
was everywhere,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So you said, I need to learn how to focus. Memory is a good place to start. Is that kind of it?
Yeah, I delved into everything, even mentalism, hypnosis, speed
Yeah.
reading, wanted to figure out the brain. And what I
Gotcha.
developed actually helped other people. And that's when I realized it could be a business. And then when you think, okay, it's a business, now how do I advertise the damn thing? My dad's a blue collar worker. I don't have a dime to my name. How do I actually get some notoriety? I thought,
Mm.
and that's when you look into memory techniques, you hear about Guinness records and accomplishments. So I found a Guinness record that I thought I could break. And it was a lot
Okay.
tougher, took a lot longer than I thought, but I broke it. And that changed everything.
Okay, great. I'm loving this progression, Dave,
Mhm.
because this is something that I want all entrepreneurs to study, understand, and follow. And that is that it's a lot of saying yes, right?
Yeah.
Here's what I want. So I have to do this, then I have to do this, then I have to do this, right? We're in a culture now where people are just looking for this instant success. Oh, I want to fly private. I want to have a Tesla. I want that, right? But
Mhm.
they're not appreciating the steps to get there. And it sounds to me, Dave, that you were never thinking about, oh, here's the things that I want. It was more about, here's the way I want to be. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I would have to say that the thing that made me different when I was younger and even today is I want to acquire skills and
Mm,
abilities more than I want to acquire stuff. I do have a
yeah.
lot of stuff though, but that's because I've got a lot of interests and hobbies and things like that.
Yeah.
But if you focus on like trying to better yourself, then ask yourself, where can I be better? The focus is entirely selfish in the beginning. And then
Hmm.
I ended up getting good enough that I could help other people. So it's selfish and then try to help others with it for an
Mm,
affordable price, of course. And
yeah.
that's an
Well,
entrepreneur, right? And the
and
same thing happened in my what I would call my second career, which is Farrow Communications. I run a PR firm, and I got into PR because it was free advertising for the memory business. I never intended to be a PR guy, but I got really good at it. I got on over 2,000 shows, all New York Times, everything that you've mentioned as well. And then other entrepreneurs, when I was looking for my next hill to climb, other entrepreneurs came up to me and they were like, "How did you get on the Today Show? How did you get on Dr. Oz?"
mm,
And I started teaching them. They weren't doing it as well as I did, so I got frustrated. So almost immediately, I just started offering as a service. I had some interns and people that worked for me, and I converted it into just an agency. And let me tell you, if I would have known what I know now, I might not have done that. Running an agency is a pain in the ass.
it
but
is.
but it took a while to figure out our niche, our space, and now we brought data science basically to PR for authors and experts, and it's something that nobody else is doing. We double the results of the average publicist. And my method of selling, you want to know my big secret of selling? I just tell people how we do it. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to tell you all the complex stuff that we do. And if you think you can do it on your own, go for it. But I think you'd make a great client and give us a bit of money and we'll do it for you. And that's
Yeah.
the sales pitch. And I literally tell them how we use AI for lead generation, how we do story hacking, how we get data from Google to create the story that we then tell the journalists there's data for. And then they are motivated to do a story on it with our guest because they're all looking for the same clicks, like the kind of the whole ecosystem. I tell them exactly how it works. And they're like, "Oh, wow, that sounds like a lot of work." And I'm like, "Yeah, it is. You want us to do it for you?"
Okay. Dave, do you have like a white paper, a list of all of these things that you do and how you do them?
Yeah, actually, on our website, faircommunications.com, you can go and actually do some deep dives. You have some case studies on there. Look at
Yeah.
resources. It'll tell you exactly how we do all this stuff. And I can answer any of your questions now, but it's been like a decade-long career.
I'm going to challenge you. And my challenge is to write a white paper and
Fair.
just step by step. And here's what I suggest: just record it into your phone, transcribe it, pop it into ChatGPT, and tell it to write out your process. And if you do that, I would love to share it with my audience. Would you be open to that?
I'd be very open to it. Yeah, actually, I wrote a white paper for my neuroscience study, but I hadn't really done that for marketing before. So that'd be an
Okay.
interesting challenge.
I'm going to offer this to my audience right now. So text the name Farrow, Farrow, to this number, 213 409 8366. 213 409 8366, and text Dave's name, Farrow, Farrow, to 213 409 8366. And I'm putting pressure on you, Dave. You will get this download. You have a couple months to do this,
All
but I
right.
would love to see that. And of course, we'll put links in and make it look pretty and people can get in touch with you. So the thing that I really appreciate about what you're talking about, from being in school and your memory to what you're doing now, every step of the way, it was you were helping other people. You were doing this cool
Yeah.
thing and people came up to you and said, "Can you help me?" And you said yes. Right? That's where it all started. The power of yes. I'm going to do this cool thing. Yes, I'm going to figure it out. Can you help me? Yes. And then after that, that's where the money shows up. And I think that's
Yeah.
so cool. Like, that's what I call badass, Dave, because the most successful entrepreneurs are the ones who started by helping people.
I think that's the
Yeah.
definition of an entrepreneur. Like there's two
Yeah.
ways to make money. One is to get it from someone, right? That's like where you win and they lose, right? That you could
Yeah,
say stock market is like that. Crypto is a lot like that. There's a lot of crypto billionaires. You know how many people have lost money in crypto? Like that's a zero sum game.
sure.
I've always had the idea of like they call it growth mindset or whatever you want to call it, but it's the idea that if we trade something, if you give me money and I
Hmm.
give you a service that's worth more than the money, we've created value where it didn't
Yeah.
exist. That's what I think entrepreneurship is. If someone just gets something for nothing, I think that's investment or speculation, maybe something like that. It's not the same. It's placing a bet. It's not entrepreneurship. I think entrepreneurs are creators. They want to create something.
Yeah, I was at dinner with my brother a few months ago at this pizza place, and I was hearing these three guys talk about launching a business. And they kept on jumping like from business to business, business. They kept going, oh, we can make a lot of money at that. We can make a lot of money at that. And I couldn't help myself. I went over to him. I said, hey, I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I just want to make a suggestion that you start at a place where you're serving other people. And that did not go down so well.
What was their
It was
reaction? Now I got to know how it
Oh,
ended.
they started saying, well, yeah, we're doing that. And I said, not exactly, because I hear you talking about how this and this, but what, start with a giveaway. And they were like, yeah, okay, thanks. I was like, all right, all right. But that's at our best, Dave. I think that's what we are here for as badass entrepreneurs, is to serve and to find ways to serve. And sometimes when you serve, it is disruptive, right? I disrupted them
Mhm,
and made a suggestion. And hopefully it took root, it stuck with them. If it didn't, they'll fail and then they'll find their way or they won't.
mhm.
But I really do appreciate that everything began with being in service. Your friends with memory, your other friends with PR. And then you said, okay, I'm going to offer this as a service because offering it as a service is the best way to grow this and help more people. Would that be fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the arc that a lot of people take in business is they work on
Mm,
something because they're fascinated with it. Even if they're fascinated with a particular type of technology, something like that, of course they can see dollar signs, but the reason you chose that and not something else is because it does intrigue you in some way. And
yeah.
then hopefully you make something valuable enough that other people want it. And it's a very organic process, I believe. I don't know any other way to do it.
I want to talk to you about Farrow Communications. I love what you've shared so far, but what is it that you do 100% right that most PR agencies do 100% wrong?
Well, I'd have to say, and I don't want to speak for every agency because there's a lot of agencies out there, but of the ones that deal with authors or experts or speakers, that sort of thing, I believe in the marketplace, there's too much of stroking of ego. If you were to become a client, they'd polish your bio, make you look really good, and then pitch you to the media like, hey, this guy's amazing. Dan can do this, Dan can do that. And that's all fine and good, but the media landscape has changed.
Mm.
And what we found is that most of the people, this is my opinion, with
Well,
me
your
and
experience.
my experience, yeah, actually that's a better way to say
Mm.
it. Most of the people that I've encountered in PR, they are relationship oriented people. They're very right brained and they're very much, they want to make connections to people and you do need to have those skills. You need to have those social skills. But at the same time, my relationship to the media is becoming less and less important. If anybody wants to see a trend in media, what's becoming more and more important is the tremendous pressure that's on them to be relevant. Whether it's
Mm.
traditional media or influencers, they're all trying to get clicks. And there's more media than ever now, by the way. You add influencers to the list, add YouTube.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, ABC, it's terrified. You think it's this big thing. They're terrified of Joe Rogan, a guy in his, I think, a basement. Looks like a basement,
Hmm.
right? So everybody wants to be relevant. So what we decided is I decided to go for data. And what I did was, and this was actually started with my Guinness record. After I broke the Guinness record, I did a bunch of interviews and then none of them were interested. Like a week later, I had some courses, I had other stuff
Yeah.
to sell. Nobody was interested. So here I thought I'd break the Guinness record and the sky would open up and money would rain down, and it didn't happen. But what did happen was I got hooked on publicity. I saw it as like really good, powerful advertising. When you can bind your name to another brand, then all of a
Mm.
sudden your name goes up. So just to a person, nearly every one of our clients who are speakers, they've raised their speaking fee, oftentimes doubled it. Every one of our clients who are consultants, when we get them publicity, they get more consulting gigs, they raise their fee. And it's not that one show that they were on, there's a ton of traffic that day. That's actually not how it works anymore. What happens is because they were in the Wall Street Journal or something, is one of our clients, we just got them in. Then when they're talking to Toyota to do some corporate training, all of a sudden Toyota is comfortable paying them, double the fee. And everybody
Yeah.
who is sitting on the fence, they jump off the fence and they do it. It's because you're tied to a larger brand. And in today's day and age where people can kind of fake their value, that's something
Yeah.
that you can't fake. That's where branding, like these large media companies are branding tools. I was addicted to it. And what I decided to do is I tried pitching myself, hey, great Guinness record holder, I can do demonstrations on the air. And that was like so-so results. But then I looked for every possible way I could tie my name into current events. So if a politician forgot something, if there was something going on in Alzheimer's research, if their kids were going back to school, Valentine's Day to have a memorable date. Like I basically came up with hooks all throughout the year and pitched the media. And what I found to a T was they really want to jump on current trends because they obviously they want to get their story, whether it's an article or an interview, they want to get ratings, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I realized the secret sauce was. A lot of PR companies are pushing kind of hype and the journalists don't know who to choose as a guest. But when one PR company ratings say, hey, interview my client, and people are already clicking on this topic, here's the data that supports it. And it's that sort of left brain bringing data into it that really convinces them. According to our data, we get double the results of an average publicist for an author.
I love that because you are essentially using no douchebag selling techniques, right? Authentic selling, which is you go to where your market is, turn around, and you look at your business from their perspective. What do they want? Not what do you want to sell them, right?
That's
and
it.
I love that. Like, what do the media companies want? They want eyeballs. Okay. How are they doing that? By just getting some big wig, I know everything, like, oh, I'm a memory superstar? No, like something about Valentine's Day because it's Valentine's Day.
Mhm.
Right? How do you figure out then, Dave, what they want to package your clients to be that thing for them?
Well, it's a lot easier now because, and I don't want to give the impression other PR companies don't do a pitch on Valentine's Day. Everyone does. But the thing is that's different with what we do is we go right to search data. Long story short,
Oh,
we're able to tell the journalist that people are searching for this keyword twice as much as they were last month. It's trending. And it's that trending new status that really does it. So I'll give you an example. I have a great client, Scott. He nearly doubled his consultant's fees recently. He does communications training for corporations. And you've seen a lot of consultants like this. I think he's brilliant and genius, but there's a lot of brilliant geniuses out there that are just not getting exposure, right? So it's fairly common, right, to see these consultants. And he had a little thing about generation and Gen Z, and he says management doesn't know how to handle Gen Z because, it actually is easier to interact with them through technology, right? So we looked at the trend lines, and some of the top trends were about multi-generations in the workplace returning to the workplace after COVID. And we found that solutions to that problem were on the rise. So we found a few trend lines. And we told journalists, hey, there's a big thing going on. Companies need to have people return to work, but it's the first time that we have 4 different generations in the same workplace and they're not getting along. They need to be addressed differently. Talk to our expert who knows all about this and wrote a book on it. That is much more compelling than talk to this expert. He's a genius when it comes to generations.
And so you found specific trending data that said, this is interesting to people.
And we do it for every client. No one's special. There are trends we can jump on for everyone. It's very valuable. And it is a bit of spin. It is a bit of, the journalist could technically interview somebody else, but when you wrap it up in a nice, neat little package, you got everything for them. They are under such pressure to produce content. They don't shop around. They're just like, can we interview them Saturday? That sort of thing.
Exactly. Okay. That's the secret sauce of it then. When you're doing that research, where are you looking?
Google Trends, a lot of times, social media listening, and then there's some apps and other things that help us tell us what the media is interested in. Plus, we also have relationships with thousands of media outlets, and they tell us too. They tell us what they're looking for and everything. So we actually, I'm almost to the point where we can actually start kind of publishing a casting call almost. Like we know what experts we're looking for and saying, hey, they're looking for these experts, they're looking for this expertise.
Wow. Any badass podcasters that you're seeking out?
There you go. You're definitely going to be in our pitch list from now on. That's for sure.
Thank you. I'm going to take a bit of a turn here. What is Superhuman and how did you win $50,000?
That was more stressful than my Guinness record, for crying out loud. It was crazy. Mike Tyson was there as a judge, and it was like all these celebrities and stuff. And it was this reality show for, I mean, let's call it like smart, quirky people. They had an IQ person on there. They had a person who could solve a crossword puzzle in seconds. They had somebody doing like
Wow.
speed math. They had somebody, I was the memory guy for that episode there. And so she competed against each other in these really elaborate competitions. I had to memorize binary code, but they didn't show it as binary code. They showed it as balloons. So I had to remember red and blue balloons. I had to be able to recite it blindfolded. There's like 120 balloons. I had like a few seconds to look at it. So I'd have to say what the order was on the top, but also they could say like row 5 down, what's the order? So I had to be able to do it
Ooh.
kind of in and out of order, backwards, things like that. And they really tested me. And I'll tell you, actually, I can tell you one story that
Yeah.
originally there was going to be like 6 people per episode, and there wasn't. There was 5. And I believe this happened because the very first episode I was in, just before I was going to go on, there was somebody else who was going to go on. They had perfect pitch, and they passed out from the stress while they
Oh.
were presenting. And so I'm standing there backstage, and I see the EMS people, all the medical people with the table. They're pulling her out this way. And then I say, Dave, you're up. Okay, I'm going to follow that, right?
Wow.
And then I found out that there's 6 people that went to the competition, and 1 is eliminated before he even goes to air because they didn't have her for the episode. So I think they had to eliminate others for the episode. So it went down to 5 already. And if
Mm.
that wasn't enough pressure, then I was on. So
Wow.
you got to be able to deal with that pressure, man. I don't know what it is, whether it's the ADD or what, but I just
Mhm.
kind of rolled with it. I just flowed with it, you know?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, it is a quirk of your humanity, right? It's something that was wired in your brain in a certain way. And I so appreciate that you have taken that and used it for the benefit of others, right? And around that, along with that current, you are swept up in it as well. Like you get to participate in
Yeah.
the goodness that you bring to the world.
I was sitting in the big chair. They had this chair that they rotate around for you and stuff. And I was sitting there and I was just trying to just clear my head and block out any
Mm.
distractions. And Cal Penn was the host. And
Ah,
he turned to me and said, David, how you doing? Just before the cameras got on. And I said the weirdest thing to him, but he got it. I was like, Cal, I'm just a tiny speck on a little blue orb flying through space endlessly in the darkness right now. And then he turned to me and he goes, yeah, I get it. That was it. And I feel like he's actually been there too, where you just had to block out all the distractions, look big
yeah.
picture, nothing means anything. Just do the best you can and don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. I kind of said the weirdest thing to him, and I felt like I bonded for a second. Like he just got it. He was like, yeah, all right,
But
good.
it's not just humbling what you did. It is a way of taking a perspective that takes you out of that ego mind, right? And when I say ego, I don't mean that, oh, I'm so great ego. I mean that part of us that is crazy about survival, right? That's all our ego wants to do is survive. And when you put yourself in a situation that we call stressful, the ego is interpreting it as, okay, I might die here, right? Of course you
Hmm.
can't, but the ego doesn't know that, right? Because all of the emotional
Right.
physicality is telling that ego that you're in a dangerous
Hmm.
situation. And I just love it that you redefine the situation. Like this means nothing. I'm
Yeah.
just here, right? I'm playing a game. When I talk to people about sales, one of the things that I encourage them to do is to focus on helping the other person, not just from a perspective of being a good person, but from a perspective of distraction. You stop thinking about, oh, am I going to close this deal? Am I going to make this money? Or am I going to be rejected? Right? No, all that goes away because you're just thinking about, am I helping this person? Or am I helping move them to a better space? And I love how you did that on your own, sitting there by yourself, essentially saying, I mean nothing. And so this means nothing.
I dig that. I
That's
get you.
really
And I
beautiful.
think everyone has to be able to compartmentalize that
Mm.
sometimes.
I find that it is the highest level of consciousness, right? Being able to detach or maybe just distract from the idea of the question, what about me?
Well, the Buddhists would agree with you. I mean, disassociation is the first step in Buddhism, to dissociate
Mm.
from worldly possessions, and then it goes towards perfection and all that. In some ways, it's interesting because it's also our defense mechanism anytime we have trauma. So I don't know if I was being traumatized or if I was actually being healthy in that moment, but I was able to perform and I won the episodes.
That's
So,
great. Hey, I'm just curious. Do you remember the first question that I asked you?
uh, mm,
And if you don't, that's fine. I'm just curious if this is engaged.
yeah, it is. Do you ever forget anything, right?
About the keys. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you ever forget your keys.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Interesting.
You're trying to test me here. I thought this was a casual conversation.
What kind of system is in place or do you use when I asked you that question to try to get it back?
Well, actually, one of the main principles of memory is visualization.
Mm,
And when you train your brain enough, then you start to visualize the simplest of things. When you're hyper forgetful, it's usually because you're trying to focus on too many things. Everyone's been there. I've been there. There's nothing wrong with
yeah.
that. What memory techniques kind of train you to do is to take all of this complex information and then turn it into an image. And through that effort, and it's not just an image. Technically, you're turning it into your sensory perceptions. So there's sounds, even smells involved. But we'll just say, for lack of a better word, turning it into an image. Through that process, you start thinking about information differently. And what I do is when I'm trying to recall something, I go back to visualize it. But I can tell you exactly what you were talking about. The stress does get in the way of it tremendously. I mean, during
Uh,
COVID, I got incredibly stressed and I found myself getting more forgetful than ever. And afterwards, I kind of got my brain back. I was telling people that I don't seem to have my brain lately. So we can all be there. And I think it's, if you see your brain like it's a machine and it's not, again, your ego, then you're a lot better off. The times when I thought it was my ego, then I would overreact to forgetting or being stressed out. And that just releases more cortisol and that interferes with your brain's ability to form memories and recall things as well.
oh,
When you see it as a machine, you're like, oh, my machine, needs fuel right now. I need to relax a
mhm.
little bit, or it needs time to process something. And you get it out of the ego. I did this with students a lot, that it's their feeling of whether they were a good student or not did more to affect their actual grades than the studying. It seemed like there was this self-esteem problem that got in the way so much. So I just took care of that and I said, okay, now if you were getting, really good grades, just assume that you were, how would you perform in this particular situation? And then all of a sudden they started acting differently and, doing the
Oh,
action differently and they just focused on the task.
it's interesting because what I hear you saying is that when you take away the thing that's the distraction, what's left is the good stuff.
I'd say focus on the task at hand. I still have to do this myself as well. I'm not perfect by any means. Focus on the task at hand. That is
Yeah.
the best thing. Don't focus on what people will think of you. Don't count your blessings before you get them. Focus on the hard work that it takes right now to get there. Like I
Uh,
said before, everybody wants the results. Nobody wants the brain that gets you to be that kind of person to get the results.
it kind of reminds me of I have a policy in my company, and that is no apologies, no guilt, no shame. Right. So when you make a mistake, you can't apologize. You can't
Mhm.
feel guilty and you can't feel shame
I like
because
that.
what's left is the solution.
Yeah.
Right. And like you say, it takes a lot of mental discipline to do that because we go right
It
into
does.
shame, apologies, all the shit that we do to distract us from acknowledging the fact that we made a mistake. It sounds really similar, the distractions that you're taking away,
Mhm.
and what's left is the good stuff.
That's really true. Yeah. And I'd also have to say
Yeah.
that one of the things you want to think of that I'm becoming more aware of that kind of I did that other people didn't do is just looking for opportunity. You don't have the right mindset if you just think the world's out to get you, that's what you're going to see. So there's a
Yeah.
mechanism in the brain called the RAF, reticular activating filter, sometimes called reticular activating system. It's that part where, let's say you bought a muscle car, a Mustang. I had a Mustang for a while till I totaled it. It's deep in my heart. So let's say you bought a Mustang, right? The minute you buy that car, all of a sudden you notice all the Mustangs that are on the road, right?
Right.
And you're like,
Right.
what is all these people buying Mustangs now? They're all copying me. What the hell? Right. But in actuality, that's not what's going on. Those Mustangs were always there. You just weren't paying attention, right?
Mm.
It is the same with opportunity. If you think the world is out to get you, you are going to see every opportunity that people have that they're trying to take advantage of you. And
Yeah.
and this is the real power of positive thinking. I was just talking about this to someone recently that like positive thinking, I don't know if I really buy the whole manifesting thing. I do
Yeah.
meditation, I do the whole thing just in
Uh-huh.
case. It's almost like, hey, just Just in case there's a God, I'm going to pray once a week, right?
Of course. Yes. Yeah.
But I really think what's going on is this particular activating filter. If you believe that there are opportunities for you, you will see them. And if you don't believe in that positive thing, you are going to miss it. And somebody else is going to see it. I'll give you one simple example is I was making some good money at my agency, and somebody who was a client of mine is in real estate. And I'm like, oh, tell me all about it. He goes, oh yeah, the market's really hot right now. We're buying a bunch of rental properties. And the more I talked to them, the more I got interested. And I dove in and I bought a property. Now the property ended up burning down. I lost money on it, but the guy who I bought the property from, he said, you know what? I'm trying to get out of the business and I just want to get rid of all my portfolio. So I got 6 houses all in one go. And I didn't have the money for 6 houses. I didn't have the money to get approved for 6 houses. And the bank was like, oh, it's okay. You're a business owner. Just prove the business model and we'll approve it as a business loan. And we'll use the houses themselves as the collateral. So I didn't need to have this. And it was just the way it worked out. But it was because I just followed that curiosity and I looked for the opportunity. Instead of saying, are these clients going to take advantage of me or how can I suck to them or something, like it's all about your focus. I've got a really good nest. I got some properties I can leave to my kid. I've got, as they retire, that's good income, like things like that. And I never would have had that if I didn't have that curiosity and that belief that there are opportunities everywhere. I have one coming up right now. I haven't produced a new memory course in probably 2 years. And even the last one I did, I think it wasn't my best. It was a good online course, but I think I can do a lot better. I realized that now that I'm older, I'm 49 right now, so I'm almost 50, I can actually legitimately make a course on memory and age. Because when I started, I was like 21. I couldn't do memory and aging. And there is so much science about memory and aging. Because I have this marketing company and I can, send out 100,000 emails a month and I can get on publicity and do all these things. So now I'm making this course on memory and age. And I think it's going to be the definitive one. I also have the infrastructure to produce it. I never would have thought of that if I didn't think of just kind of looking for that opportunity.
I love it. I mean, anything that you are good at, you can sell. Because if you're good at it and can create something that's beneficial and other people like it, like what you did with your memory at the very beginning, like what you did with PR, like what you're doing right now, it's an income opportunity. And anything that we get good at in my company, like we got really good at hiring virtual assistants. And so we're launching a virtual assistant company.
I'd actually like to talk to you about that. I got a few VA and everything. No, I'd love to have another conversation because I've hired a few VAs that my editor is in India. We've got a large presence there now. And I'd love to compare notes.
It's right. And look, it took us a long time we spent a lot of money, like to your point, right? We spent a lot of money and a lot of time hiring the wrong people. And then we started to develop systems and then we perfected those systems. So now we know mostly the right people to hire. We know how to train them in a way where we don't have to spend much time with them. And we're using AI in our training, like all these things, right?
But if you failed at something or something cost you a bunch of money, you just turned that into a selling opportunity because you thought to yourself, well, if this cost me a bunch of money, if you you just have an opportunity mindset, this thing that I just did cost me a bunch of money. I wasted a bunch of money. I bet you there's other entrepreneurs that have wasted a bunch of money on this. If I figured it out, then maybe I can show them, teach them, do a service for them, and then they won't waste that money. And that's my competitive edge. So that money that you lost, that memory that bad memory that I had and the test that I did, all of that led to the opportunity in front of us.
Perfect. I'm launching a new podcast, right? And as I'm building this podcast, I'm partnering with someone. And this podcast here is called For Badass Entrepreneurs Only. We're launching one called How to Be a Badass Entrepreneur. We're taking people who are struggling in their businesses, and me and a guy named Phil Better are going to help them. And as we're building this thing, I'm going, oh, wait a second. I'm learning a better way to launch a podcast. So these systems that I'm creating, I'm first going to give to my clients, right? Yeah. Because I'm like, hey, Jeff, you want to launch a podcast? Great. I have everything ready to go. We have the website model. We have all the forms. Everything's ready. Like push a button. And then once we figure that out, then we sell it because we got good at it. And because like you said, we made a lot of mistakes. What's next for Dave Farrow and Farrow Communications?
I would say that right now we're in a growth streak. I want to bring us up to $1.6 million in revenue. We're very, very good at helping that thought leader group want to be a thought leader. and we're really good at getting them publicity. The next thing that we really tackled was lead generation. There's a whole revolution of AI with lead generation. Basically, we have a system where we will send 100, 200,000 emails a month, but they're all hyper targeted and they're able to get past the spam filter because the system that's sending it out, AI, emulates human behavior. I looked at that and I thought, how can I use that? Where's the opportunity in this? So we
Mm.
offer it as a service now. Originally, I built this marketing system to try to get clients, and now we're offering it as a service to our clients. And
Again, right?
yeah,
Same thing.
but we're getting like cold email. We're getting a 40, 50% open rate, a 2% response rate, which is unheard of in the industry. Typically like 0.5% is huge. So then I thought, how else can I leverage this? And that's where the memory course idea came in. I thought, you know what? I could make a specialty course. So this is actually a good model for businesses. This is kind of
Yeah.
like 10X model, right? Pick one niche, make some smaller version of what you do, solve that niche's problem, make some money, build a list, and then do it again and do it again and do it again. And when you have several niches, then you could do the generalized product. So if I come out with the memory course for aging right now, I'm going to need testimonials. I'm going to need an ad budget. It's a really big thing, right? So what I'm actually doing is I'm starting off with a memory course for real estate agents, oddly enough. They were one of my best clients. It's
Yeah.
called Memory Makes Money for Agents. And it's all about names and faces in the sales process for real estate. And I have an email system that allows me to basically email about 1 million real estate agents in America. And I'm going to try to sell that, make some money with that. Then we do insurance agents, and then we do salespeople, then we do CFOs. We can target these people by that group, but at the end of the day, I'll have a list of, let's say, 100,000 people or something that are in their mid 40s to late 50s, in that age range. And then I can market, hey, here is the definitive course on training your brain to stay sharp as you get older and prevent Alzheimer's and all that other stuff.
Wow.
But if I launched that big one, if I got too ambitious, so like it is a matter, when I was younger, I got a little too ambitious and bit off more than I could chew. So you start with what works really well.
Yeah.
And you can just repeat the process and repeat the process, do something that is that niche, and then you can build that audience together. So that's the next big thing that I'm going to do. And I think it'll make millions. It's a process over the next 4 years or so. We'll be building that out.
It's so funny that you say that, Dave, because this VA company that I'm starting is called LA Realtor Rescue. I love realtors too, right?
Yeah, realtors
Right?
hire a lot of VAs. They're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And realtors forget that they own businesses. They just think that they have a job and they always take on way too much. So I built this because I want to help realtors get virtual assistants.
Right.
And I mean, same thing with
That's the smart thing. And then when you get successful with that, then you find somebody else, some other niche.
Right. Yeah. We're not trying to kill everything. And it's LA realtors, right? So then we'll franchise it out to other
Fantastic.
realtors, Chicago realtors. So how can people get in touch with you, Dave? Because if by now they don't want to get in touch with you, they're morons. How can people get in touch with you?
Hey, I appreciate that. If you're interested in the memory courses, I have a new program on Audible, and I've got a great course. I've got a great new book called Brain Hacker. If you want to get something on Amazon, it's like $25. I guarantee it's worth every penny. It's got like 50 different brain hacks. It goes in depth on all the stuff we talk about. So if you like the brain stuff, go there. It's really my opus. I put a lot of time into that book, Brain Hacker. And if you want to talk to me directly, if you have a business or you have a book coming out, something like that, and you want publicity, just farrowcommunications.com. You can actually book a consultation with my team, perhaps myself if you qualify, and sit down for half an hour, go through some stuff, tell you basically how we would pitch you, give you an honest expectation of what sort of media you can get, and you walk away from it very, very happy. So farrowcommunications.com or Brain Hacker on Amazon.
Great. And I'm guessing the usual LinkedIn, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you can find me, Dave Farrow. I'm at Dave Farrow on LinkedIn or X and all the stuff. I got a Wikipedia. You want to add to my Wikipedia article? I
do.
don't have MySpace.
Sure, I'll jump on that. Last and probably most important question, Dave, when you were in high school, how did you use your memory power to get girls?
Well, that's a funny one. I like that. I would say that it did have that effect, but it wasn't on purpose. I think when I was trying to be ambitious, and I did a charity event where I memorized like 6 decks of cards for the local United Way. and everything. And then I had like the local television station come visit my school. That's when I
Yeah.
realized, hey, cameras come, the girls like that. So I did notice that quite a bit. And then that kind of gave me the motivation to step up to the Guinness record. I would say just being ambitious and aiming high. One thing I've noticed about the female of the species, if it seems the more you focus on them, the less they like you. But the more you're focused on something bigger than you, then the more they think you got something going on.
Where was this information 20 years?
I know. It's always the person who simps to the girls. Oh, what do you want from me? And the girls are all like, oh, I want to find out what he's doing because he's doing something cool. Like that's, so be like a flame to the moths.
Okay.
I'm going to have to handle questions like this. My son just turned 10 years old, so he's starting to ask about girls now. He's got a crush and everything, so I got to know these answers.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay. Well, have him listen to this episode. Dave Farrow, thank you for being on this show. Once again, Dave has a giveaway that I forced him to give away. And so just text his name, Farrow, Farrow, to this number, 213-409-8366. 213-409-8366 and text Farrow, Farrow, and get his cool free thing. Dave,
I'll
thank you
actually
again.
also sweeten the pot. I'll give away to one of the people that texts that. I'll give away a copy of my book, Brain Hacker, and you get to choose who it is.
Fantastic.
Right?
So if you are the first person to
There we
text
go.
that, you get that from Dave. Awesome.
All
Dave
right.
Farrow, thank you so much for being on for Badass Entrepreneurs. We're definitely going to have to circle back and have you on again because you're just doing so much cool shit. Appreciate it.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Hey, one last thing. If you're feeling stuck in business life, wherever, download my book, Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story and Take Action. In this book, you'll see how the stories that you tell yourself are stopping yourself from living your greatest life. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to this number, 213-409-8366. 213-409-8366, and text the word GAP. It's a short read, it's fun, it's easy, and if you hate reading like I do, you can grab the audiobook. It's at that same link. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to 213-409-8366. You'll love it. All right, that's it. Go out there and be badass today.